Good morning, and welcome to this place, this sanctuary, this holy space. A welcome to all who are joining us here and also those joining us through the gifts of technology and our live stream this morning. We gather in community, in this community and in communities in our own homes and sacred places. We gather to seek the nourishment and the encouragement of wisdom and inspiration we need for this day and for the days ahead. And certainly we need that wisdom and inspiration and encouragement. As we gather together this morning, as always, I draw attention to a few announcements in our bulletin and a few that are not there. As we gather as church, as family, we do hold in our thoughts and our prayers those who are journeying through times of struggle. And this morning I invite us to hold in our thoughts and prayers the family of Pat Roach. Pat's brother Joe died this past week, and we certainly hold Pat and Isabel and the Roach family in our thoughts and prayers as they journey through these days. If you look at the bulletin, you'll notice a variety of announcements that are printed there, and I invite you to mark the various events and activities on your church calendar. This coming Tuesday is the last of our Soup Becoming Beans for Seniors Pickup Delivery Luncheons. As many of you are aware, we've been fortunate to receive funding through the United Way. We received that funding back in May and were able to offer 4 luncheons then, and then we received funding in the fall and did a lunch in December, and now offering, instead of soup, something heartier which are beans for seniors. And this month is being catered to in partnership with Stone Soup Cafe. So I know Mark can vouch for the delicious beans that folks will be receiving on Tuesday. If you didn't get your order in, my apologies. Hopefully there'll be a next time. And if you're in a bean craving, speak to Mark and the folks at Stone Soup, and maybe they can meet that craving for you. But I do want to extend a thank you to those volunteers from our church who have been instrumental in making this project possible since May. A thank you to the United Way for their funding, certainly, and to those we've partnered with, Stone Soup Cafe and Mrs. McGregor's, and to all who have supported this outreach project. A few people have said when we've done some calling or when I've spoken to people about it, well, I don't need that, I'm not hungry, I don't have a food need. But the project wasn't or isn't about a food need. It's about a need for care and kindness and connection. And we do that through food, through the gifts of food. And we hope and trust that those who get to enjoy the soup for seniors or the beans for seniors feel that care and connection. And so again, thank you. I also, in advance of what will be happening next month with the beginning of Lent, draw your attention to the announcement on the back of the bulletin regarding a Lenten book study using a book by Sister Joan Chittister, who, in my opinion, is one of our modern day prophets. And this book is called The Time Is Now, and certainly the time is now, a call to uncommon courage. And so if you're interested in learning more about the study, if you can speak to me or give me a call, and if you want to join in the study, we'll need to ensure that we have books well ahead of our February beginning of Lent. We gather in community. We gather sharing our struggles and sorrows. We gather sharing our joys and celebrations. And I know there are joys and there are celebrations. Randy Gilpin, there's Randy. Randy Gilpin, you celebrated a birthday on Friday. And Paul McCarthy, Tom, is your birthday today or was it yesterday? The birds that tell me this information are a bit confused.
Technically today, yeah.
Technically it's today. Okay. There's a story there we can ask Tom. Any other celebrations, birthdays, anniversaries? Good stuff. No good stuff happening? Oh, there has to be something. I heard Alison Yoshioka saw a red cardinal this week. Anyone else see a red cardinal? Well, there you go. Brett saw a red cardinal. That's good news. In the midst of winter, that's good news. So we're going to hum together our happy birthday. And it's which? Hi, Shelley. When's Shelley's birthday? The 19th. Happy birthday, Shelley. This morning, as we gather, as we're grounded in worship, we open our ears, our hearts, our lives to that sacred and important call. God's voice that speaks to us. It is that theme of call or holy summons that is woven through our worship. God calling to us, our calling to one another, a call that's not only heard with our ears, but moreover, our hearts. God's call invites, but it also disturbs. It comforts, but it also confronts. God speaks to our deepest selves and our truest selves, our longings, our hopes, and our dreams. Tomorrow, many, not only in the USA, but across our globe, will pause and remember and honor one who knew deeply and lived deeply his call. One who lived his deepest hopes and longings for our people, for our country, for our world. And so we're gathered this morning by the wisdom that is offered to the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. These words are grounding words for us today, and they're printed in our bulletin. They come from a sermon called The Drum Major Instinct, and it was offered by King at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia, on February 4, 1968, just 2 months prior to King's assassination. Let us hear these words of wisdom. Everybody can be brave because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. And so it is with hearts full of grace and souls generated by love that we gather. Though the day and season of Christmas has come and passed, in this season of Epiphany, the spirit of Christmas remains. Holding us, encouraging us, inspiring us, gathering us. And so we gather in this sacred place, yet ordinary place. A place of wisdom, a place of connection, a place of love, a place of light. May the love that breathes life into all humanity and all of creation continue to be born in us and through us. before anything was. Before we were born. Before we were loved. Before we were seen. Before we were named. Before we speak. Before we move. Before we came to this holy place. God is good. All the time. All. This morning, when we turn to the wisdom of Scriptures, we'll be turning to the book of 1 Samuel and the story of Samuel, and the familiar words that are found in that story. Speak, God, your servant is listening. Your servant is listening. To listen, to truly listen, takes practice. Listening is different than hearing. It is said that to listen is a spiritual practice. For to listen, we need to stop, to pause, to tune in, to listen to ourselves, to listen to others, to listen to the world around us, to listen for God. Listening doesn't only happen with our ears. Moreover, it happens with our hearts. Let us be gathered and grounded in prayer. It doesn't matter how far we go to run from you. God who calls us, you reach out and touch us with healing in our hands and turn us around so we can follow you. It doesn't matter how suspicious we are of you. God who invites us to follow, you remove our fears with your compassion. You take away our doubts with complete acceptance of who we are. It doesn't matter how often we ignore your word. God who speaks to us, you whisper to us until our ears tingle with anticipation and we listen with eager hope. So speak, God. Speak again and again. Your servants are listening. This past week, I was out around town and met someone that I hadn't seen in a very long time. Probably hadn't seen face to face since maybe last April, or maybe even when everything happened in March. We've had communication through email and phone calls and some Facebook things, but I haven't physically seen this person. And so at a safe distance, we got caught up with one another. Now, one of the reasons that perhaps I haven't seen this person in a while is that they have a compromised immune system, and so are being very, very, very careful about being out anywhere. But on this nice day, they were embracing some fresh air to help their immune system, to help their spirit. As we parted our ways, they said to me, "I wish I could just give you a hug." How many times have you felt that over these past months? Encountering someone, being with someone, and feeling that you just wish I could give you a hug. We may not all be touchy-feely people, and hugs may not be part of our normal routine when meeting people. But it seems to me that we've become so deeply aware of how important a hug is. To receive it, to offer it. And so we weren't able to give one another a physical hug, but we decided we could give one another a kind of, not even virtual hug, a symbolic hug, and express our care for one another. God's love that is offered in the gift of a hug. God's love that's offered through us to another person. God's love that we can sometimes even offer to ourselves with a big hug as we offer ourselves the care that we need as we journey through these days. We began last week with Donna offering us the gift of song that is like a big hug. And we're learning it in sign and symbol, and it's a way for us to be reminded of the love that does surround us and the love that we surround one another. Thank you, Donna.
That's review. Life. A big hug. I feel God around me. Why are you trying to sing this morning? And I'll try to catch up.
Slow version. Like slow. You can't sing. I can't pat my head and do not pat my belly either, so like. Tutorials on which night should I come in for my tutorial? Tuesday. We can all do this one, like the big hug. Thank you, Donna. I believe the younger folks amongst us are going to make their way downstairs with Dorothy for time together in the hall. As I named earlier, our Hebrew scripture story draws us to the book of 1 Samuel and to Samuel's story. But before we move into Samuel's story, I think there's a bit of history we need as background to that story. I want to bring us back to Samuel's mother, Hannah. Do you remember the story of Hannah that's told in the scriptures? The story told that she was childless. And in those days, to be without child, to be barren, was seen as being a punishment from God. That punishment from God for Hannah was made even worse by her husband's other wife, who had many children, and who would often provoke Hannah because she did not. It is said that in her distress and bitterness, Hannah went to the temple. And at the temple she prayed and prayed and prayed, praying to God, saying that if she was given a child, she would dedicate that child to God. Her prayers were offered with such passion and anguish that the temple priest Eli, when seeing Hannah, thought she was drunk. But Hannah was not. And Hannah's prayers were heard. The priest Eli offered her a blessing, and as the story is told, Hannah conceived a child, and she gave birth to that child. And as she had promised, she brought the child Samuel to the temple and to the temple priest Eli, dedicating Samuel's life to service and to God. And so as we enter the story this morning, Samuel is in the temple with Eli, and it's often titled in the scriptures as Samuel's call. It is a call for Samuel that is physically not easy to hear, also spiritually not easy to be listened to. It is a call that will not be easy for Samuel to follow. Turning to the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 3. Samuel served God by helping Eli the priest, who was by that time almost blind. In those days, God hardly ever spoke directly to people, and God did not appear to them in dreams very often. But one night, Eli was asleep in his room, and Samuel was sleeping on a mat near the sacred chest in God's house. They had not been asleep very long, when God called out Samuel's name. "Here I am," Samuel answered. And he ran to Eli and said, "Here I am. What do you want?" Eli answered, "I didn't call you. Go back to bed." Samuel went back to bed. Again God called out Samuel's name. Samuel got up and went to Eli. "Here I am. What do you want?" Eli again said, "Son, I did not call you. Go back to sleep." God had not spoken to Samuel before, and Samuel did not recognize the voice. When God called out his name for a third time, Samuel went to Eli again and said, "Here I am. What do you want?" Eli finally realized that it was God who was speaking to Samuel. So he said to Samuel, "Go back, lie down. If someone speaks to you again, answer. Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. What do you want me to do?" So once again, Samuel went back and lay down. God then stood beside Samuel and called out as God had done before, "Samuel, Samuel." Samuel answered, "I am listening. What do you want me to do?" You are mine, loved by God, beloved of God. Today, as we ponder God's call to Samuel, God's call to those first followers, indeed God's call to each of us, we are reminded that we are God's. Loved with a love so deep, loved with a love so all-encompassing. So it feels right that we turn to the words of wisdom that are found in the book of Psalms and Psalm 139. Hear these words. "O God, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O God, you know it completely. You hem me in, behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high that I cannot attain it. For it was you who formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, God, for I am fearfully, wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works that I know very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes beheld my unformed substance. In your book were written all the days that were formed for me before they existed. How weighty to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast the sum of them. I try to count them, they are more than the sun. I come to the end. I am still with you. The theme of God's call continues as we turn to John's Gospel and the story contained there. In the midst of everyday moments, in the midst of ordinary work, to ordinary folk like Philip and Nathaniel, to me, to you, God in Christ calls. Reading from John's Gospel, chapter 9. The next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. There he met Philip, who was from Bethsaida, the hometown of Andrew and Peter. Jesus said to Philip, "Follow me." Philip then found Nathanael and said, "We have found the one that Moses and the prophets wrote about. He is Jesus, the son of Joseph from Nazareth." Nathanael asked, "Can anything good come from Nazareth? Can anything good come from Picto?" Philip answered, "Come and see." When Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him, he said, "Here is a true descendant of our ancestor Israel, and he isn't deceitful." Nathanael asked, "How do you know me?" Jesus answered, "Before Philip called you, I saw you under the fig tree." Nathanael said, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God, the King of Israel." Jesus answered, "Did you believe me just because I said that I saw you under the fig tree? You will now see something even greater. I tell you for certain that you will see the heavens open and God's angels going up and down upon God's chosen one." This week, as I read the scriptures, as I pondered the scriptures and sought to listen to the wisdom that was being offered, I began to wonder, has anybody ever told you that you are loved? That you are loved, wholly, completely loved. Has anybody told that? Has anybody told you that you are loved? That you are loved? God's love, holy love, embodied. Has anybody told you that? If not, if so, I invite you to listen. Listen. To deeply listen. For you are God's. You are of God. Created, formed, loved into being. You are God's. Your goodness, your struggles, your joys, your hurts. You are God's. Your laughter, your tears, your challenges, your disappointments. You are God's. Holy, holy loved by God. In the words of the psalmist, knit and formed, fearfully and wonderfully made. Listen to that. Fearfully and wonderfully made. Even on your worst days, even on those bad hair, bad attitude days, even when your spirits are soaked to the bones with grumpiness, fearfully, wonderfully made. You, me, we are God's. Do you remember that classic children's story, The Velveteen Rabbit? And how the rabbit discovers that to be real is to be loved. To be real is to be loved. The skin horse explains this to the rabbit. Generally, by the time you're real, most of your hair has been loved off, and your eyes drop out, and you get loose in your joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly. Once you are real, once you are loved, yet can't be ugly. We are God's. All that we are, all that we seek to become, all that God seeks in us to become. Come. Come and see, writes the gospel writer. Come and see. Gentle whispers and small nudges and sometimes big pushes, maybe even a shove or two. Come and see God. Come and see that you are of God. No matter what, come and see. Theologian Frederick Buechner says, our calling is where our deepest gladness and our world's hungers meet. Where our deepest gladness and our world's hungers meet. Our gladness, our hungers, our longings, our passions, our commitment. That's where we find our calling. Our calling to live and to struggle and to act and to speak and to follow and to lead. Our calling to embody love, holy love. For there are many people, perhaps some of us right here this morning, that have never been told that they are loved, that we are loved. We are called to embody that all-encompassing, life-affirming, justice-seeking love. The love of stranger, the love of neighbor, the love of God, the love of self. Love of self. We are holy. Love wholly and completely. May we truly listen, and listening, may we know the depth of our being, the love that surrounds us and embraces us and empowers us. May it be so. As we journey in this season of Epiphany, we are guided by the light. A light made known in the one born in Bethlehem, the one who said, I am the light of the world. But the one who also said, you are the light of the world. And so we seek to share the gift of light in a world that is in need, to people who are in need in a community of need. We seek to be bearers of God's love and God's light in many, many ways. We give thanks for gifts that are offered, gifts of time and talents and treasures, gifts in support of the ministry we share in the work of mission and service, gifts given through PAR, gifts given this morning, gifts offered through e-transfer, the gifts of self. We are a people of abundance, a people who seek to share our gifts generously, and we give thanks. Thank you for the gifts that you share this day and each and every day.
Gifts of our own, as rich and as precious as gold. Gifts of the Spirit and gifts of the heart, offering wealth untold, offering wealth untold. Follow the star of the night, star of wonder, star so bright. Offer your gifts, whatever they are, be not afraid, follow the star.
As we enter into this week, we do enter into a historic week. Not only for our sisters and brothers in the United States, but for all of us as we move towards Wednesday and Inauguration Day. But it is also a week that for many is filled with concerns and fears and the fear of violence. You may have noted on our Facebook page a post I shared this morning that comes from our sisters and brothers in the United Church of Christ, which is one of our partner churches in the U.S., and a statement that they released to their congregations around the possible fear and unrest that could impact worship services this very day in their congregations and in the days leading to Wednesday. As partners in faith and partners in the work of justice, we certainly offer our prayers and our support to our sisters and brothers within the United Church of Christ and within other spiritual traditions and denominations in the U.S. as they continue to seek ways of peace and justice and hope in the midst of turmoil and unrest. Prayer centers us. Prayer unites us. Prayer strengthens us. As C.S. Lewis once said, prayer doesn't change God, it changes me. And so we gather in prayer seeking to be changed, seeking to be strengthened, seeking to find that deeper sense of hope that we need to hold on to this day and every day. In your bulletin is printed a prayer that is inspired by the Lord's Prayer. I invite you to join with me in prayer. Good, caring presence within us, around us, and above us. Hold us in a sense of mystery and wonder. Let the fullness of your goodness be within us and around us. Let all the world know of your ways of caring and generosity. May we find we have all we need to meet each day without undue anxiety. Overlook our many stupidities and help us to release everyone from their stupidities. May we know we are accepted. Strengthen us that we will reach out to the best, always with the faith to rise above the ugly realities of our existence. As we celebrate the gifts you have given us, the rich kingdom of life's possibilities, the power to do good, and the triumphs of good, and the moments when we have seen the glory and wonder of everything. You are life's richness, you are life's power, you are life's ultimate meaning, always, and for everyone, and forever. renewing our spirits, the future to face. I hope and trust we are each going from this place with renewed spirits, a deeper hope, and an abiding love. Hope, writes Parker Palmer, hope is holding a creative tension between what is and what could and should be, and each day doing something to narrow the distance between the two. Love sends us in our full humanity to encounter the full humanity of others, messy, real, complicated as it is. That compassion may be our practice, that differences may be our teacher, that honesty and truth may guide us. God calls not the perfect, but the willing. With the assurance of the Spirit's companionship, we go in love, we go to love.